to survive the classroom.
Let's jump in to the fan stories / questions that were sent in this week.
Hey, Andrea, I'm thinking of getting into teaching. I'm actually trying to get a degree right now for it. But I had a quick question about education. When I was growing up, I was really good at school. At school, I was really good at music and singing. And gym class was all right, but most of the main subjects, unless it was history or English, I was really bad at. Couldn't take tests. My mind just went blank. And because of that, I wasn't allowed to do plays. I wasn't allowed to participate in trips for like chorus or band. I wasn't even allowed to go to dances or special events because they wanted me to focus on schoolwork, which I mean, I get, but at the same time, whenever they give me extra resources, my brain would not process it. So as a teacher going forward, and what I would like to do is find ways to help students overcome that issue. Or so, what advice as a teacher would you give if you had a student that struggled in this way? Because I remember it was very traumatizing and embarrassing not to be able to do fun things growing up with school because the grades weren't there. Thanks again. Love the podcast. Have a good day. Bye.
I'm really interested in who it was that said that this gentleman couldn't attend those things. I don't know if that was a parent thing, because as far as I know, it was pretty rare for schools to say you could not go to a dance or be a part of a production or something like that purely based on performance in classes. Um, I feel like I need more information to better kind of understand the situation that was happening. Was there an IEP or a 504 in place that had some kind of goals associated with that? And so those were supposed to be rewards. I don't know though, because I don't know of any situation where I had a student with an IEP or a 504 that wasn't encouraged to participate in extracurricular activities. And in fact, a lot of times when I had a student that was struggling and I found out they were in an extracurricular activity, I was actually delighted by that, because it's really powerful for students who struggle in certain subjects, especially if it's like core academic subjects, which it kind of sounds like that was the case for some of yours. That it was those extracurriculars that would motivate you to maybe do a little bit more in those classes that you struggled in to make sure that you were still able to do them. Because I know for athletics, at least, there are league rules, right? And so as I was working on my book this week, I was talking a little bit about how to better support students who have other things going on in their life other than just being a student, which is all of our students, right? But I kind of broke it down into hey, if your student has a job, if your student has responsibilities with their family where they're in charge of childcare, or, if they are also going to be working through, also balancing sports and stuff like that, which some sports can be a little bit less of a time suck. But I mean, I remember there were some sports where there was twice a week where a student would miss class. And so if they were missing class, they had to be super, super motivated to stay on top of all of that. And so I talked a little bit in my book about the different approaches you could take to support those students from a teacher perspective. And since it sounds like that's what you're going for, I'll kind of give you a little bit of a snapshot of some of the things I talked about. Number one is if you know you have a student that is going to be missing class because of any kind of out of the curriculum activities, or if you have a student who does have a 504 or an IEP and needs a little bit more support, I would record the lectures, or I would record a condensed version that gives the bullet points of what they had to do with that information. Because a lot of times I would notice, especially for me in math class, I would hear the instructions. I felt like I understood it when the teacher was explaining it. And then I sat down to do it myself and my mind went completely blank. And then I felt so dumb because I could not get there in the same way that some of my peers did. And so I think that that's number one, is maybe recording lectures, recording other resources so that students can access them outside of the classroom without having to access you outside the classroom, right? Because we cannot be available 24/7 for our students. But over time, you might find that having specific topics that you've pre-recorded and creating a library for yourself of hey, here is this assignments explanation and you keep that on there, that is incredibly powerful. Um, so that would be number one. Number two would be to find out a little bit more about what the needs of your students are and why they maybe aren't allowed to participate in those things. Because sometimes it's within the school's policies and sometimes it's not the school at all. Sometimes it's the family. And I did know quite a few families that if their kids were not performing at the level that the family wanted, then they were not allowed to join whatever it was, right? And I'm not sure if that was the scenario for you. It kind of sounded like you were saying that it seemed like it was coming from the school side, but I would find that out because you never want to be pushing up against the parents' wishes in a way that seems very obvious to the student. Like you want the parents to always feel like you guys are a team and you're a team in supporting the student's success. And that success, I would think, should include things like socializing with their peers, attending events, going to dances, going to be a part of a play, and stuff like that. Um, and I mean, some of the ways that you can support that is always to just over communicate to the parents. That's something else that I think is incredibly important and very hard to do when we're burned out. The way I do it and have found is incredibly easy and successful once you get it set up is I would always start out the year by recording a video of myself explaining everything that I felt like they needed to know about the first couple of weeks and like also introducing myself, kind of giving a little bit more of just like a face to the name along with the syllabus, and then going over different policies and expectations. And that way, when I did have to reach out again, it didn't feel like this random person who I've only seen a piece of paper from was calling me. It's like, oh yeah, that's that teacher that sent me that video introducing herself. Oh, okay, kind of know who she is somewhat, right? So there's a lot of little things that you can do, but it really depends on the specific situation of the student and what their needs are, because it could also be a situation if a student has a learning disability or something like that, where overstimulation can exacerbate their condition and can make it more challenging for them to be successful. So that, like, I'm just as I'm talking through this, I'm kind of going through some of the things that pop in my head as reasons and motivations that they might have had for something like that. But I mean, I there are very, very, very few, if any, I can't think of any right now, situations where I would be like, "Oh, yeah, like, a student's doing poorly in this class, therefore they should have no extracurriculars and not get to go to the dances or to school events or the barbecues or anything like that." Like, it feels like that seems a bit extreme, especially without knowing the context a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I would encourage you that students or teachers that were students that struggled make for very empathetic teachers. I am one of them. I did not do well in school. That is no secret. I told you guys a lot about that. I think it's even in like my bio is that like I sucked as a student. Um, and then, my brother was an is an aerospace engineer. And, my sister got her degree, her master's degree in public health and nutrition. And so like I have a younger brother who's like in business. And so like all of my siblings were very high performing. I by far had the lowest GPA when I graduated high school. I think I was the only one who had less than like a 3.5. I think one of my siblings had like that, but I had like a 2.8 when I graduated high school. Okay. And now they all have to call me doctor. So your success or struggles in, I don't make them call me doctor, just so we're clear. Though now I kind of might have to sign off all of our family cards, just Dr. Andrea Forkham. But I say that just to say that your success or struggles in high school, middle school, elementary school, that does not dictate your success as a teacher. In fact, a lot of times it enables you to see students a little bit clearer because you can see their motivations, you can see why they're struggling, you can see their coping strategies for what they are. Because for a lot of people, when they see students who are struggling and are like, doing different things to cope. It's like, why are you acting out like this? Why are you like drawing and doodling and doing all of this? And it's like, oh, I know I did that, right? Like I was avoiding work too, or I felt stupid and I would have rather felt like I was in trouble with you than feel stupid in front of all of my classmates. So all of those things put together really don't mean anything other than like, if you want to be a good teacher and you're willing to work really hard at like helping your students be successful, I really hope you're not discouraged by any kind of negative memories you have of your own time as a student, because it could be the thing that helps you reach students that are really, really hard to reach. So, all right, let's go ahead and listen to the second thing that was sent in this week. Thank you so much for watching. Want more of How to Survive the Classroom? You can watch the rest of the episode right now. Just click on that little box over there. Do you see it? And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Okay, bye.